In today's video, I will finally finish our rolled over Nissan pickup truck that we purchased from the insurance auto auction, and I will take you through my step-by-step process of what it takes to get this thing painted right here in my driveway with great results. Just a quick recap. This truck was purchased damaged as a result of it being rolled over onto the side. All of the elements of the driver's side were damaged to some degree, some worse than others. For the most part, I was able to bend the front bumper back by hand, with the worst being the back door that had to be replaced.
Against the door, there should be no gap there at all, but there is a significant gap there. I mean, this door got it pretty good.
Bedside also sustained a good amount of damage, but since you can't exactly unbolt the bedside and bolt a new one on, I much prefer just fixing these sort of things, rather than drilling them out and welding new ones into place. And you know something, just out of curiosity, I figured, hey, you know what, I wonder how long does it actually take to get this bedside swapped out if you're doing it by the book.
And by the book, I mean, this is how a body shop would normally go about figuring out how many hours it should take to replace a bedside such as this one, so this way they can get paid accordingly for their labor.
So I went ahead and used a VIN number from a random truck. This one's newer, 2013, but it's the same exact body style. We got 4-door pickup with a 6-inch bed. It's the same Nissan Frontier truck. So this way the software is aware of what it is that we're working on. So now if I go into a repair tab, I can go down here into the pickup bed, select that. And once again, I got to confirm that it is a crew cab, 6-foot bed, left side, select that. And right here, it shows us that it takes 12 hours of labor to get this bedside replaced. And down here, it shows us the paint labor in hours. So to refinish the outside, we're looking at 2.4 hours. And to refinish the inside of the bedside, 1.1 hours. Also take a note of a price of a new bedside. I'm looking at almost $1,200, and after tax, it's gonna be about $1,400 in total.
So when you work in a shop environment doing insurance jobs, insurance company covers the cost of parts. And since I'm not a shop and I don't have extra $1,400 sitting around to spend on a bedside, this is definitely something that I would much rather fix and just, you know, keep that money in my pocket. And it takes 12 hours to remove the damaged bedside and replace it with a brand new one, if I'm not feeling lazy, in less than 12 hours. I can get that whole bedside metal worked, bondoed up, and in primer, basically ready to paint. So I would much rather go that route. Sorry, got a little off topic there. Let's get back to paint. So since this truck is my son's daily driver, last time, once I got everything primered, we went ahead and put the bumper, the taillight, and everything else back on so he can drive this thing. Now we gotta basically take off everything off this truck that we don't want painted.
Basis for a good solid paint job go deeper than just laying down some expensive paint while using a good technique. First and foremost, you gotta make sure that the area to be painted had been properly prepped.
All right, so with all of the trim out of the way, there are no more obstructions, so we can finally start wet sanding. And I would normally start out with some 400 grit sandpaper.
For most of the sanding that I do, I use one of these hard foam sanding blocks. I use these on both body filler and primer. Generally, I would switch up to a longer block to speed up the process when I'm doing all of the rough-in work
but then I would switch up to the smaller blocks for the final stages of sanding process. This is just a personal preference of mine, and your results may vary, but I can generally get my panels really nice and flat by using these smaller blocks. For the next step, there are two options: wet sanding or dry sanding. Dry sanding creates dust, and I personally just hate the dust, so my preference is wet sanding. And you got a couple of more options here. You can either use a bucket or you can use a water trickling out of a hose from above. Thing is, you have to keep the panel nice and wet the whole time to keep the sandpaper from clogging up. So in my opinion, the hose just works better. And if you are going to wet sand, do yourself a favor and put on some rubber boots, because otherwise your shoes are guaranteed to get soaking wet. Remember, always treat primer the same way as you would treat body filler. Primer has some thickness to it, so while you're sanding it down, you continue shaping your final result. Therefore, you should take your time and don't rush it. Use the same technique to achieve that perfectly rounded corner as you would while sanding down the Bondo. Same goes for your body lines. To keep them nice and crisp, you need to tape them off while sanding, otherwise the end result will be less than satisfactory.
Guys, prep work takes a good amount of time, but thing is, it is really important to get it done right, because it's your final step before the paint job, and your paint job is only going to be as good as your prep work. So don't cut corners, spend extra time if you have to, but get it done right. So all the areas that had been primered are ready to be covered with paint, but if you look right here, we got a lot of gloss going on here, and that's because the clear coat has not been scuffed up yet. It basically has to be matte, just like this blocked out clear coat right here. If you guys don't block it out, I guarantee you a few months down the road, your paint job in all of the areas that have not been scuffed up will start lifting and peeling off.
Primer is quite a bit softer than your cured clear coat, and that's why I always block it out by hand with a sanding block. When it comes to clear coat, you can use a block and sand everything by hand, but since clear coat is quite a bit harder, it will take you a good amount of time.
So to save time, I'm gonna use this Jitterbug sander. This thing is great. It's very inexpensive and it's gonna save me a ton of time.
Once again, I load up the sander with some 400 grit sandpaper. I plug in the air line, got some water going out of a hose, and I let the sander do all of the work. I also have to get some paint into the door jamb behind the replacement white door. So to make that happen, the easiest way is just to get that door out of the way. Spend a bit more time with a sander on this door, and this thing is also ready to go.
I put quite a few hours into the prep work, but everything is prepped and is basically ready to be painted. So the next step is we got to get everything taped off. The sun's going down. It'll probably be dark in about an hour or so, so we're not going to have enough time to get this thing sprayed tonight. So, gonna get everything taped off and sprayed first thing in the morning.
Foam tube tape does a great job at keeping the overspray out of the door jambs, as well as giving you a soft transitional edge between the new and old paint. And the last step is to protect all of the nearby vehicles from overspray.
Paint gun that I'll be using for sealer, base coat, and clear is my Ines Iwata LPH 400. This thing is a total workhorse. I've had this thing for many years and it never let me down, and this thing lays the paint down like a champ. I am going to be retiring this gun here in just a bit because I have something better that will take its place. Stay tuned if you guys want to find out what it's going to be.
Now, before any base coat goes down, we first have to lay down some sealer over all of the areas that we have primered.
All right, so let's get ready to mix up some sealer.
The sealer I'll be putting down is this Luma-Base gray sealer.
So mixing ratio on the sealer is 4 to 1 to 1. So 4-part sealer, 1 part activator, aka hardener, and also 1 part just a regular urethane reducer. For cups, we are using the Develbis D-Cup system. This makes the mixing and cleanup of the whole gun and everything so much easier and faster. So I recommend these things if you guys haven't used them before, and if you've just been using, you know, the standard original cup that comes in these guns. Those cups are okay, but this is a better solution for sure.
I always shake and then mix with a stick the paint product that I'm about to spray, whether it's a primer, sealer, or base coat. Clear coat is the only one you don't need to stir, but you always want to thoroughly agitate the solids that would otherwise settle at the bottom of the can. Nice thing about Develbis D-Cups is that you can measure, mix, and spray out of the same cup, which is pretty convenient and saves a good bit of time. Then you just put the lid on the cup, attach the cup to the gun, give it a little shaky, and you're ready to start spraying. Well, not exactly, because before you even think about laying down any paint, you first have to really clean your panels. And by that I mean you have to put down a liberal amount of some wax and grease remover on your panel and wipe it all off. This process will dissolve and remove any of contaminants such as traces of body oils from your hands and other stuff that may still be present on the panels that are about to be painted. And trust me, there's nothing worse than laying down some paint and seeing fish eyes appear right before your eyes. Because that can only mean one thing: you're gonna have to repaint.
Also keep in mind that besides the contaminants on the surface of your panels that will cause the fisheye to appear, you also have to worry about moisture and possible oil inside of your airline. And that's why, as a last form of defense, I always run one of these small inline air filters on the end of my paint gun. This way, if something trickles through the airline, this thing will pick it up.
One more thing I want to note is some painters out there will say that you should only wipe in one direction. And I'm not really practicing that. I wipe in every direction possible, and guess what? I haven't had any issues doing it this way, so I'll just keep on doing it. Once all of the panels get degreased, I follow up wiping all of the panels down with a tack cloth. It's a sticky fabric that will pick up lint and dust that the paper towel may have left behind, and even if you're using a lint-free towels to wipe away wax and grease remover, you should still not skip this step. By the way, I will leave links to a lot of the products that you see me use during the prep and paint process in the video description down below. Now let's give our paint job the best fighting chance at not getting much dirt in it. I generally saturate, give or take, a 10-foot area around the car that I'm painting. The ground needs to be pretty wet, including the ground under the car. This way, as any potential dirt would try and tumble into the paint job, it should get trapped in the water on the ground and not proceed any further. Also, if you're painting in the summertime like I was in this video, you have to make sure that the body panels that you're painting are not in the direct sunlight. It's a bit hard to tell right now, but I'm actually painting under a canopy. So this way, majority of the car is in the shade, including the area that's receiving paint. Parts of the car that are in the direct sunlight would get pretty warm, and paint materials that are being applied will not have any time to flow out and will start curing as soon as they hit the panel. Guys, I know I'm giving you a lot of information here, but all of it is important. And all of these steps need to be considered, because if you follow these steps, you probably won't have any issues. Fixing these issues can take a good amount of time, and it's going to get costly, because paint materials are pretty expensive these days. Anyways, as you can tell, we're actually laying down some sealer. My air pressure is right around 29 to 30 psi. I'm applying just one medium wet coat of sealer over all of the areas that got primered, and also the spots where I might have busted through the original paint down to bare metal. All of that needs to be sealed up. I used to not use sealer, but once I started using it, I'll never go back to not using it again. I know it's an extra step that you have to do, plus you have to buy sealer, which isn't really terribly expensive, but still. In the past, when I would apply base coat over primer, every now and again I would get a weird reaction when sometimes you can actually see the outline of where the primer would be. Even though you just put 2 or 3 coats of base right over it, it would appear to look like a halo around that area. So you will not have any more problems such as that once you start covering all of your primer with sealer first. It's just some extra insurance that goes a long ways. Also, sealer provides corrosion protection. That's why you absolutely have to spray some of it down over any exposed metal. Base coat doesn't provide any corrosion protection. And another huge benefit of using sealer is whenever you're painting your front end parts, such as front bumper or especially leading edges of your hood and fenders, those panels are prone to getting rock chips. You can even apply 2 coats to those areas that will greatly reduce any sort of paint chipping. I've tested it myself and I know that it works 100%. I actually have some proof of that and I will be showing you that in some of my future videos. Did you guys catch that? I thought I parked the car across the street and yet it's right here. Let's rewind this a bit. Wife gets in the car, runs out to get some food, and when she comes back, she parks the car in, "Hey, I'm painting, this is a no parking zone." And I totally did not even catch on to that because I was too concentrated on what I was doing. Luckily, it was really warm out that day, so by the time that overspray made it to the car, it was completely dry, so it did not even stick. But still. So next, after cleaning out the gun and the cup, it was time to mix up some base coat. I'm using a Perfect Coat brand of a base coat. This is just something that's available to me locally. I like using this stuff. It's pretty inexpensive compared to some other paints. And this particular base coat mixes 1-to-1, meaning 1 part base and 1 part urethane reducer. And since I'm basically going to be painting the whole side of the truck, I'll go ahead and mix up a full cup.
So it's been about 20 minutes since I laid down the sealer, and that's plenty of time for flash off because it is a warm day and the tech sheet I think is calling for 10 to 15 minutes, so if you give it a little extra time, that's totally fine.
I can see a good amount of that sealer overspray, and it's important to get all of that stuff off to have a nice clean panel, and a sticky tack cloth has no problem picking it all up. Guys, remember, cleanliness is the key to a good looking paint job, so don't skip these steps. And make sure to tack your panels after the sealer and every coat of base that you will put down. And obviously once the first coat of clear goes down, you no longer need to tack anything. Generally, with the first couple of coats of base, I just try to get some good coverage over all of that sealer, fanning a little further out with each additional coat. I keep my air pressure right around 26 to 27 psi with about a 75% overlap.
when I was laying down the first coat of base, and actually it doesn't matter, it could be first, second, third coat of base, makes no difference. I noticed that there was like a large piece of trash that got blown into my base. And the thing is, even if you put the base down, it's okay. Once it flashes off, you know, give it 15-20 minutes, you can wet sand it. And so I went ahead and knocked down that little piece of trash, and you know, it's very lightly. I busted through down to the sealer, which is not a big deal at all. New coat of base will cover that up and you'll never know that was there. Stuff like this happens and you can still salvage it and it'll still look great in the end.
Tacking everything again between the coats. And the second coat fills in that area that we fixed up just fine. You don't even know that it was there. And basically the second coat is just a repeat of the first coat. All of my gun settings are the same. My air pressure and overlap once again stay the same. I just go over all of the same spots that I went over with the first coat just to get that better coverage over the sealer. And that's really all that there is to it. I guess all that I can add to it is if you are just starting to paint and you are new to this whole painting thing, go lighter on the paint rather than heavier, because if you go too heavy, you may just end up running it. And after laying down 3 coats of base, let's go ahead and mix some clear. And the clear that I'm using today is this USC clear that mixes 4:1, meaning 4-part clear to 1-part hardener. Your first coat of clear is going to be your glue coat, meaning you want something sticky between your second and final coat of clear and your base coat. So go easy on that first coat. Don't try to make it look perfect like you would with your last coat of clear. Something within a medium wet range will do just fine. Therefore, if it doesn't look all that glossy, don't worry about it. Your last coat of clear will take care of that. The optimal air pressure to lay down clear, pretty flat with this particular gun I find to be right around 30 psi. And once again, I'm keeping my overlaps at right around 75%, and the distance between the tip of the gun to the panel is roughly around 6 inches. So really the only difference between spraying sealer, base coat, and clear coat is going to be your air pressure settings. But the rest of the technique, as far as the overlap, the distance between the gun and the panel, and the speed at which I make my side-to-side passes, will stay the same no matter what I'm spraying.
And after second coat of clear coat, we were done. And you know what? All in all, I think this paint job turned out all right. However, I think it could have been better. And the reason I'm saying that is, about halfway through the paint job, I realized that my air compressor started running on just 1 cylinder instead of 2. It was taking forever to build up air pressure, and after messing with it for a little bit, there was really not a whole lot I could have done because one of the cylinders was just not putting out any air. It was dead.
And due to lower pressure, materials did not atomize as well as I would have liked them to. I was noticing that I was getting a bit more orange peel than I would normally be expecting. So could this paint job be better? And the answer is yes. But will this paint job pass? And the answer is yes once again. It is still fine. I've painted in a paint booth before, and guess what? You're not gonna get much better quality just because you are in a controlled environment. As long as you follow all of the precautionary steps, you are going to get a decent paint job right in your driveway. It doesn't need to get done in some fancy facility, so you can still get good results right where you are. We let the truck bake in the sun for a couple of hours, and then we spent the rest of the evening just putting everything back together. And this is what the truck looks like right now. Over a year after it got painted, I did not cut or buff it. It looks just the same as it did on the day that it got sprayed. And one more thing, I would appreciate if you guys hit a like button if you liked my video. Thanks in advance. In the next video, I'm gonna address that busted air compressor of mine by actually starting fresh with something totally different, and I'm gonna build an ultimate compressor for paint and just running air tools in general.